Hey everybody, welcome to the full button tutorial for the 2023 Toyota Camry SE. We're sitting in the all-wheel drive button, but there's no different buttons in the all-wheel drive. Typically, I start from left to right, then I'll go down to the buttons by the shifter, work my way up top, and finish up with the screen. But with that said, let's begin the tutorial. Starting on the door, every Camry now comes with auto down, auto up windows all around. It's been this way for a few years now, but if you're new to Toyota, all the Toyotas come with this. A hard click down or a hard pull and release. They're auto up and down on all four windows with micro adjust. In front of that, we have the door lock buttons with two little dots that you can feel for the lock button so you don't have to look down when you want to lock the doors. Next to the left, we have a little green LED signifying that we've locked the windows so that passengers can't open them when they're locked. Great for the children. And in front, the mirror adjust. If I take the mirror adjust and click it to the L, I can toggle the left mirror like this. If I click it to the middle, it's the neutral position. And to the right, I can toggle the right mirror like so. You'll want to leave it back in the neutral position so if you hit this on accident, it doesn't change your mirrors. Down on the seat from a driver's view, I have the forward and back lever here. So this will slide my seat forward and back. It also raises it up or lowers it down with a little bit of a twist motion here on the cushion. Then I have the recliner, backwards, forwards, and lumbar support. This one will give me more cushion in the back, less cushion in the back. So the pillow's coming towards me. Now it's going away. Another important feature here down below are the locking floor mats. So each floor mat here has a little lock. You'll see the little arrows. By twisting and turning this, I can pull the floor mat out. When I put it down, I want to make sure all these arrows match. That way it's 100% locked and it won't slide under your brake pedal. On the dashboard towards the bottom, we have the hood release over here. And no longer on the Camry are there any buttons for the trunk or the locking gas door. Those buttons are actually above the hood latch, right up top over here. But before we get there, we have some extra storage. From left to right, we have the auto high beams, which will activate when the headlights are on auto. The button to turn off to traction control / vehicle stability control in case you want more power to the wheels during slippery conditions, like if you parked and it snowed outside or if you're going on a gravel trail. And the push hold button for releasing the trunk. Of course, you have this button on the key fob as well. And a push and hold button to release the locking gas door. Working our way up, we have the button to change the brightness to the speedometer. That's a little speedometer with a light bulb, so I can increase or decrease that brightness there. It'll show us right on the screen. And the odometer and trip. So if I push that, it'll do trip A, trip B, and the odometer. I'll show you real quick on the bottom of the MID. On the bottom right there, I got trip A, trip B, odometer, and push and hold to clear. Push again, push and hold to clear. And just so you can see, that's turning down the brightness or turning up the brightness to the gauges. The left steering wheel stalk has a couple different positions. We have DRL off for no lights, automatic, which will activate the automatic high beams. It'll give you daytime running lights, and that'll kick on the headlights and taillights when it gets dark out. Parking lights for all the buttons lit up with the taillights, and then a dim front light. And then I have the manual option for the headlights in case I want the headlights on even though it's light outside. Here's an important thing about the automatic high beams. When you leave the car in auto and you turn on the auto high beams, the high beams will know when to come on, but if you ever need them in an instant, you can override the system by just pushing the stalk forward. For the stalk on the right of the steering wheel, it's very simple. There's no rear wiper, but if I pull this towards me, it'll squirt the washer nozzles on the front of the car and the wiper blades will wipe a couple times. It's in the off position now, but if I click it down once, it'll go once in a while, and I can change that intermittency level here, so how often it goes. If I click down again, it's low constant, and then down again, the last position is high speed constant. On the steering wheel, we have these two pads, one on the left and one on the right. There are no buttons in the back that are hidden. Just to summarize, I have some operation here for the MID and some cruise control features. So starting on the left, we have the side-to-side, up and down, select and back button for the MID, which the MID will come next, but that's going to operate the MID. I can answer calls and hang up the calls right here when I'm connected to Bluetooth or plugged into CarPlay / Android Auto. I can increase or decrease the volume to the music or the phone calls here, and voice commands. If I push it once, it's going to do the Toyota voice command assistant, but if I push and hold, it's going to do whatever voice command assistant my cell phone has. That's when I'm plugged in. On the right side of the steering wheel, I have the cruise control. So we have the radar cruise control symbol here, which is what it's defaulted to. But if I were to push and hold this, the little green symbol on the MID is going to change. So on the MID, when I push that cruise control button, we get the little green symbol here. It says radar ready because that's ready for the radar cruise control, but I'm going to turn it off. Now if I push and hold, you're going to see it changes to just the arrow and no car. So that's the constant speed cruise control. That's the old school one that doesn't have any sensitivity. Once I push this and it says radar ready, I can hit set, and then I can increase speed or decrease speed like this. Of course, stepping on the brake will stop the system, or I can hit cancel like that. While I'm in the automatic cruise control, I can set the sensitivity, which some people call following distance, right over here, which will display on the MID screen. That's your multi-information display. And then I can turn on the lane departure alert, which also has steering assist, which will steer me back in my lane. The last two buttons here are the mode button and the song switch. So I have seek and track, or I can change through the songs. And then I have mode, which will go through AM, FM, Bluetooth, Sirius radio, or if I push and hold, it'll be a pause/mute button. On to the Speedo cluster before we do the MID. So on the left, we have the tachometer, and on the right, we have the speedometer. So starting from the left, I have the tachometer, which will show my RPMs. And then on the bottom here to the right, we have the engine temperature, and a little symbol here for park when the parking brake is engaged. So if I take it out of park, you'll see the parking brake turns off. So I don't even have to look down at that automatic parking brake button, which is near the shifter. And if I put it back in park and hold on for 2 seconds to the brake, it parks. Then I take my foot off the brake and it doesn't even roll. On to the right side here of the Speedo cluster, we have the actual speedometer, a very classic Toyota simple easy reader, up to 160 here, and then the kilometers are in the smaller digits. And then down below I have the fuel level with a little arrow next to the fuel symbol reminding me that that locking gas door is in fact on the driver's side of the car. I'm also going to see a couple other elements that are going to show here in different lights. For example, if I were to buckle up and use the brake hold feature, I would see that button right over here. And then if I was actually holding, it's right there, which I'll show you soon when you get to buttons near the shifter. The blue symbol for the high beams will also be on the right, as well as the headlight. When I turn the headlight system on, or the automatic headlight system decides to turn on, that little green light bulb will be right over there. Next up, the MID, which is the multi-information display. So the lighting here makes it a little harder to see, so bear with me, but we have some icons on the left that you can go through using the up and down arrows on the speedometer, not the speedometer, the steering wheel. We have the eco menu, which is a little leaf. We have the navigation/driving support, vehicle information, that's what the little eye symbol is, and the settings, which is a gear symbol. Now just real quick on the MID, I'm going to zoom out a notch. On the top right we can see the time. Below that we can see the digital speedometer. On the very bottom right there we see the odometer, which we can change to the trip with the little odometer trip button, see that? In the center we have the gear we're in, so if I put it into reverse, it says R, I got drive, I got my gears that I can shift through, back to drive or park. Tells me right there so I don't have to ever look down at the shifter. On the bottom left we have the outside temperature, and in the center we have whatever type of menu that we're currently viewing based on the menu that we're in and the pages that we're on. Of course, when I go up and down through the different menus, I'm going to show you each menu. You'll see on the top here there's a little circles. That means I have pages left and right. So starting with the eco menu, the first page, on page 1 here, we have our gas economy. Of course, don't judge this car because it's never really been driven. You got to actually drive it and maybe go through a tank or two to get accurate readings. We have the eco indicator with the range. And what people love, a real digital, big, easy to read speedometer with our distance to empty. I would say page 3, which is this page of the eco menu, is probably the favorite of most Camry drivers. Down again, we have the driving support screen, which is just a quick overview showing you that the lane departure alert is off and the dynamic radar cruise control system is off. But when they're on, this is going to show you in real time what those systems are doing and detecting. Down again to vehicle information, we'll start with page 1 here on the left. We have the individual tire pressure, which I recommend checking once a month before you drive. And to the right here, we have the pre-collision system showing that it's on and active. Down again, a little bit more involved, we have the settings menu. So starting from left to right, if I push and hold OK on the steering wheel, This activates some settings for the lane tracing assist, which is part of the lane departure alert system. The lane tracing assist is part of Toyota Safety Sense. It keeps you in the center of your lane. I can turn that on or off, say I'm not a fan of that. And the sensitivity level I can change. The sway warning is a feature that will determine if it thinks you're driving tired and about to fall asleep, and you can change the sensitivity to that. Hit the back button, go over to the right. This is the pre-collision system. That's the system that'll use the camera in the windshield and the sensor in the grille to determine if you're about to hit a car or a person. And I can turn that system on and off or change the sensitivity right over here. Moving along to the dynamic radar cruise control, if I push and hold OK, it now has curve speed reduction. So if I'm in cruise control and I'm going around a turn, it will actually decrease speed slightly even if there's not a car in front of me to maximize the handling of the vehicle and reduce body roll. To the right again, that's a little car reading a road sign. That's the road sign assist. If I push and hold OK, I can change that by turning it on and off. Now if I go to notification method, I can have it notify me if I'm above the speed limit. And if I go to others, I can do visual and audio or only visual. So if you like the beep, it will beep at you when you go over the speed limit, but from the factory it's only visual. It's going to give you a little orange rim around that speed limit sign that pops up on the screen there. All right, hitting the back button, notification level, I can pick how far over the speed limit it'll actually notify me. And to the right again, we have some settings here. Press and hold OK. That's where I can change the tire pressure system. I can set the pressure, change the wheel. The rear seat reminder, which reminds you to check the rear seats when you turn the car off. Say you're somebody that never really has kids or dogs, but today's the day that you're babysitting, and you know, with muscle memory, you're used to just turning the car off and getting out. Well, this will remind you to check the back seat just in case. So you quickly peek behind you and you say, oh wow, there's that kid that I was babysitting. So that could save a life, but if you don't like it, you can turn it off. Basically the way that works is when you shut the car off, it'll beep and it'll remind you to check the back seat. Scheduled maintenance, that's for the technicians when they reset or if you're doing maintenance at home. And back to the right, we have some meter settings here. So this is for your Speedo Cluster. I can change the language in the units if I'm traveling intercontinentally, or if I'm going between countries that change their units. The little eco badge, if I don't like that coming on and off, I can turn that off if I want to. That just lets me know when I'm driving economically. Digital speed, I can turn on and off if I want to. And gadget content, this changes the different stuff that shows on the display here. So most people like some of this information, but it's selected at no display. Distance travel type, this changes the type of information you're seeing based on your fuel economy for my hypermilers. And if I want the multi-information display off, if I hit that, it kind of cleans things up a little bit, which is nice. All I have to do is push the OK button, or I'm sorry, I push the down button, and it turns back on. For pop-up display, these are different things like notifications that are going to pop up as you use them. So if I push OK, I can just pretty much change the brightness to that. On some Toyotas, they let you change the information that's shown, but this is more of a basic setup there. And then of course I have default settings. Say I want to go back to factory settings on that. Hitting the back button here, that's the last menu. And if I go to the right, that's the last little bit on the settings menu. And if I hit down, I go back to the eco menu on the MID. Another important thing about the MID is that when you turn the car off, if you left the windows open or your sunroof or your lights are on, the car is going to beep at you and it's going to tell you right there. If you have the smart key system and you turn the car off and you leave the key in the car and try to lock it, the car is going to beep and it's going to tell you on the screen that there's a key detected in the vehicle. So anytime the car starts doing any strange beeps at you, you want to check the MID because that's your helper screen that's telling you what the car is trying to say. For buttons near the shifter, a couple minutes ago we talked about the brake hold feature, which is right next to the automatic parking brake. So I'm just going to buckle up real fast so we're prepared for that. So the first button we see here, which before we do that, we just got two USBs in here, so there's no real buttons in there. But we have the electronic applying parking brake. So that's going to be active when you see the red park over by the tachometer over here on the left. So I don't really have to look down at it, but it disengages whenever I take it out of park to back up or go into drive. You'll feel a slight pressure decrease or increase in the brake pedal, and you'll hear a little zzz sound when it's applying and disengaging. This is just for when people want to do it manually or the technicians are working on the braking system. They can turn it off completely. Back into park, this will reapply within 2 seconds. But for the brake hold, so when I push hold, that'll turn on the feature. So you're going to see it here in green. That means it's on. But how do you know it's holding the brakes? Well, if I'm in drive only, not reverse, you'll see it in gold. So now what that lets me do is I'm actually in drive. See that? I'm in drive, but I can take my foot off the brake and it's going to hold for me. Now if I give it a little bit of gas, it's going to release the hold and I'm going to move forward, and once I come to a stop, it reapplies and I can take my foot right off that brake. So great for the city driving, great for the drive-through. But remember, this doesn't work in reverse, which makes sense because why make you guess if you're in drive or reverse? It should only really be used when you're in drive. And there we go. It's not holding because I'm in fact in park. The Camry comes with a couple different drive modes that you can do while stationary or driving. Eco mode is going to depower you slightly and give you better gas mileage. Normal is going to be a blend between the two. And then we have sport mode, which will give you a little bit more power and maybe a couple miles per gallon less. On the MID, it kind of changes the way things look. On the MID, when I hit Eco, I'm going to see a green shadow on the bottom, and on the top left it says Eco mode. When I hit normal mode, it's going to do nothing and just have like a very light blue shadow on the bottom, but when I hit sport, it's going to light up red and it's going to say sport mode in green. Nothing fancy, nothing exciting, but you can identify with the word and the color what mode you're in at a glance. And like I mentioned before, when you're down into drive, you can shift the lever to S while moving or stationary, and you can toggle forward or toggle back in the gears. Toggling forward on the bottom of the MID will show you what gear you're actually in, and yes, they're real gears. And that helps you hold the RPMs, drive a little bit more spirited, or say it's bad weather and you want to do 20 miles an hour at 2,000 RPMs up a hill, you can control your throttle perfectly and tank your way up a hill, especially with the all-wheel drive system that some of these Camrys have. In front of the shifter, we have an additional storage area over here that you just push to release. If the Camry has the upgraded package, it'll have the wireless charging over here, and it'll also have, if you have the weather package, the heated seat buttons over here for 3 different levels of heat. And since we're on the topic of packages, because this is more of a base SE, there's a couple other features that this Camry might have if you have upgraded packages. I mentioned the weather package, which will have the heated seat buttons over here, but also on that weather package, there's going to be a button over here for the heated steering wheel that looks like a little steering wheel with some convection waves. If you have the convenience package, you're going to have a key fob instead of a turn key, so you'll have a push button start over here with a key fob that you leave in your pocket. And your rear view mirror is going to be auto dimming instead of a quick flipper. You'll have 3 buttons for your garage home link system to link it up to the garage, and then you'll have the on-off button for the auto dimming feature. Another package available for the Camry SE is the moonroof package, which only gets you a moonroof. That's going to give you a moonroof right over here that slides into the body. And then for your overhead features, you'll have an open and close button over here and a up and down button for your moonroof. And then lastly, if you were to get the upgraded audio package, this screen, instead of being 7 inches, would be 9 inches on the screen, and in the back you'd have additional ventilation for your rear passengers. But back to the tutorial. So we're wrapping up the buttons near the shifter, then we're going to do climate control and overhead features. These 2 levers here flip up for the USB plug for the CarPlay or Android Auto system, and a 12-volt plug for those old school accessories. Now onto the climate control. So we see these 2 large knobs over here. Sorry for the reflection, guys. I'm going to try to get my hands out of the way. So we have a temperature here for the driver and a temperature here for the passenger. When I change the passenger temp, synchronize is not going to be lit up anymore. So now they're both going to be their own. But if I hit sync, it's going to sync to the driver, and I can control both sides from here. I can turn the system off with this button over here, and then I can resume it by turning the fan up, and of course the fan speed is right by the symbol on the screen, and then I can change the air direction with this button over here, and it's going to cycle through the different air directions. AC and recirculate are right next to each other, which makes sense because you want to recirculate air that's already cold instead of sucking air from the outside of the car and straining the car trying to cool that air. On the very left side here, we have the front defroster. So instead of scrambling if you're fogging up and trying to find that windshield air direction, you can just hit this button over here and it's going to override and it's going to start blasting air on the windshield. But since I don't want that there, I gotta pick where I want it since I'm a little hot. And the last button over here is going to be the rear defroster with the defrosting side mirrors. On the brochure it says that the weather package gets the defrosting side mirrors as well, but it looks like it's coming standard from the factory because we have the mirror symbol and the back windshield. And then lastly we have the auto feature, which is like central air. If you hit this, the car is going to modulate how much fan speed you need to match that temperature that you want, and as it starts cooling down to your desired temperature or heating, it's going to scale down that fan speed. Working our way up to overhead features, I did talk briefly before about the type of mirror you're going to get if you have the upgraded package there, but this one just comes with a simple flipper with dark mode and light mode for simple driving. And up top we have the individual lights here. There's a button right here for the LED on both sides. There would be the moonroof buttons on side to side, and I have the SOS button, which is 1 year complimentary on the Camry with a blocker so you don't accidentally hit it. But when you download the Toyota app, you create your account and you get the complimentary trial. It's a recovery system to help save your life if you get into an accident, have a medical problem, or can recover your car if your car is stolen. Lastly, up top, we have this nice big sized glasses holder for sunglasses and driving glasses with a soft backing so you don't scratch up your lenses. And for the sun visor, this one does have the slide out piece, which is a little bit easier than sliding the whole visor like some Toyotas do. So that's nice for when the sun is in that corner that it doesn't cover. And when you open up the mirror, you have a nice matching LED that matches the LED in the front. Kind of unique and quirky to Toyota, even though we're all LED in the front, we have a candle light, as I call it, the yellow incandescent light. So we have the off position, on with the door, and on all the time positions here for the interior light down back. Let's move on to the infotainment screen and then wrap up the video. For the purpose of reducing reflection, I'm going to go ahead and change the color theme real quick so that it's more of a lighter color. That way it's easier for you to see. There we go. So on the Toyota infotainment system here, this is the previous generation software, so it's not the new one that you see in the Corolla and the Highlander and the RAV, which means it's not wireless CarPlay. You do have to plug it into the USB plug down below. We have these 4 buttons here that the driver is most likely to use, and a couple buttons here that the passenger may use. We have the home screen that shows information all at once. We have the menu where you can access the setup app and a couple other things, and your display settings. We have the radio over here, which is going to be your AM, FM, Bluetooth, and Sirius radio right there with the power and the volume. Of course, we have the tune scroller for the FM radio there and AM with the Sirius. And of course, map. When we're plugged into the CarPlay or Android Auto, it's going to go to the map app right over there. On the right, you can seek and track the songs, but they put this over here in case the passenger wants to, because you have that button on the right side of the steering wheel. The phone menu as well that you can also access from the steering wheel. When you hit the phone button, it'll initialize you to make a phone call. And then below we have some apps, which is kind of a redundancy because we're not using the Entune system anymore, so you're most likely to be using the CarPlay or Android Auto system anyway to access apps. The only apps that will be in the app menu will be the Remote Connect authorization and notifications apps through Toyota if you want to initialize notifications from the app to the car and set up your Remote Connect, which is a remote starter feature where you can also start the car from anywhere in the world, lock the car, unlock it, and see your status, etc. There we go. From the phone. So in the apps menu there, you'd see a little Remote Connect initialization there. That's where you'd get that stuff set up. But moving on to the meat and potatoes, like I said, when you're connected to Bluetooth, the phone section here will have 4 widgets so you can select shortcuts to call people. Say you're not the type to use CarPlay, but you have a phone that has Bluetooth, that gives you nice shortcuts so you can call people in an instant. But the menu is where the good stuff is. So audio is the same as the audio button, phone is the same as the phone button, apps is the same as this, so we have some redundancy here. Projection is just going to be for your CarPlay system. And for info, we can see some stuff like our gas economy, our history. We can also clear it. And more importantly, we have the setup. In the setup, it gets a little bit more advanced, but I'll go over the more important things. I can train the vehicle to learn my voice with the training voice recognition here. There's some vehicle settings where I can customize the vehicle, like how long the, oh, sorry about that. Like how long the headlights stay on when I turn off the car, how long the interior lights stay on when I turn off the car, if I have the daytime running lights, door lock settings. If I prefer the Camry doors to stay locked when I put it in park, I can change that right here. And if I scroll down, I can even change the feedback tone if it's beeping too loud when I unlock it. Or if I need it louder, I can even make it so the lights do not blink when I lock and unlock it, and the auto relock timer. If the car's been parked and I jump in real quick to grab something and close it, if I forgot to lock it, I can set the time for it to auto relock right over here. For valet mode, you would enter a 4-digit code. And once you create that 4-digit code, it's going to make it so they cannot change any settings in the car. So very convenient for when you're valeting the car or loaning it to somebody that you don't want messing with your features and your radio settings there, or accessing, you know, any navigation stuff if you have a more loaded Camry that comes with an in-house integrated navigation. We have the setup for the Wi-Fi hotspot, and then back to apps and other redundancy as well. Now let's go back over here to the menu, which, by the way, we know we're in the menu because it says this. We know we're in the home screen because it says that. So pretty much the corner of the screen will tell you wherever you are anyway. But another one of my favorite buttons is display. When you hit display, you can adjust the brightness to the screen here, or the contrast. So say you want that screen just a little bit more dim, even though you dimmed down the gauges, this screen's a little bit bright at night, you can change that. Or another one, you can just turn the screen off and still listen to music. So just a pro tip, you hit menu, display, screen off, and that screen is off and the music plays, and you can even change the volume or do phone calls. And the screen doesn't come on until you hit one of these side buttons, and then it'll turn right back on. Back to setup, which is kind of concluding the video. On the right side here, I can customize the way the home screen looks, so I can change the layout. Right over here, I can change the information that it shows, and there's not a ton of stuff, but I can also turn the beep on and off. I can change the color theme setting, which I showed you in the beginning of the video. So say I want to make it look a little bit more sporty, that's a lot nicer in my opinion. Or if I like the black and blue, which is what I use on my truck, right over here. A lot of people like to get that red and black when they buy the SE. And then down over here, just some more advanced settings for keyboard stuff. Most people don't touch these. And that's where I can check for my software updates in case the screen ever did act up. Pro tip, if you're trading in the car and you want to delete all your personal data, what you do is you go to menu, you go to setup, you hit the down arrow, and you go to delete personal data right over there, and it's going to delete all your personal data from the car. Now you're wondering, well, what if I'm plugged into CarPlay or Android Auto? What about that stuff? Well, when you plug it into the USB, you gotta get permission from your phone, you hit yes, and then you get permission from the car, and the screen on the Camry is gonna look just like your phone, and you can slide back and forth between your apps. There's gonna be a little widget on the bottom that's gonna create a home screen on the Apple interface or the Android/Google interface, so you can see different information as well. And then, like I mentioned, you can use the voice command button on the steering wheel to activate Siri or your Google Assistant. And it's going to be very self-explanatory. On the settings app on those phone apps, you can change like your dark mode, light mode, your appearance, your wallpaper, and stuff like that. But there's not a whole ton to do. If you hit the text messages, it'll read it to you through the speakers, and you can reply, you know, auditorily. You can speak out those texts, and then you can hit the phone menu and make calls. Or you can do what I like to do and just press and hold, and then tell the assistant, which would be Siri for me, to just call somebody, or to tune to the station, or to play that artist, or play that song, or play that playlist. The assistants won't be able to change any of these because these are all hard buttons, but you can do music, phone, stuff like that right on here. And that pretty much wraps up the tutorial for the Camry. Very similar to the Camry LE, but with some upgrades. Do check out the review video. If there's something I missed, let me know. Sometimes I do miss things, but I try to keep it concise while being full. That was the full tutorial button of the 2023 Toyota Camry SE all-wheel drive. I hope you enjoyed. Please give it a like if you liked it, share with somebody that might benefit, and please consider subscribing. I promise you it'll be worth it if you want to see more Toyota content. With that being said, I'm out. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.